If you plan to drive tomorrow, this information could be extremely important. Across Ontario, many drivers are seeing alarming claims about new Highway 401 rules and instant fines, and that is exactly why we need to slow this down and look at what is actually known. Here is the key point right away. I could not verify a single brand new province-wide Highway 401 only law that definitely begins tomorrow. But that does not mean drivers can relax. What often catches people off guard is not a dramatic new law. It is the sudden enforcement of rules that already exist, temporary highway restrictions, construction zone changes, and common mistakes that can lead to very real fines, demerit points, license trouble, and insurance problems. And that is why this matters so much tonight. A lot of experienced drivers, including people who have been using the 401 for decades, assume the rules are basically the same as they were years ago. In many cases, the wording may be familiar, but the enforcement, the penalties, and the way officers interpret dangerous behavior on busy highways can feel much stricter than many people expect. But here's what many drivers don't realize. You do not need a dramatic crash, a police chase, or reckless weaving across 6 lanes to end up with serious consequences. Sometimes it starts with a glance at a phone, a misunderstanding in a construction zone, or a split-second decision near a tow truck on the shoulder. On Ontario roads, even smaller violations can snowball. A ticket is one thing, but demerit points can stay on your record for 2 years from the offense date. And if a fully licensed driver reaches 15 or more points, that can trigger a 30-day suspension. Even before that, warning letters begin. And once insurance companies see risky driving convictions, many drivers discover the hidden cost was never just the fine. This is one reason seasoned drivers can be caught off guard. People who have driven safely for 20, 30, or even 40 years sometimes rely on habits that no longer match today's reality. They may assume that keeping up with traffic protects them from speeding consequences. They may believe touching a phone for just a moment at a red light is harmless. They may think a tow truck on the shoulder only requires a little caution, not an actual lane change when safe. And because the 401 is so busy, fast, and stressful, small misunderstandings can become expensive very quickly. So let's walk through the rules and enforcement areas that matter most before tomorrow, one at a time, using simple real-life situations. This is not about panic. It is about staying informed. And because headlines can exaggerate, every viewer should verify the latest local and provincial requirements directly with the Ontario Ministry of Transportation, Ontario 511, and other official provincial authorities before driving. Let's start with the rule that continues to trap a huge number of drivers: distracted driving. In Ontario, if you are driving, stopped in traffic, or sitting at a red light, it is illegal to use a handheld phone to text or dial, to use a handheld entertainment device, to have a visible display screen unrelated to driving, or to program a GPS on a handheld device unless it is done by voice command. In plain English, if the phone is in your hand while you are in control of the vehicle, you may already be in dangerous territory. This next rule is where things get expensive. For drivers with standard A to G licenses in Ontario, a first distracted driving conviction can bring a $615 fine if settled out of court, up to $1,000 if fought in court and lost, 3 demerit points, and a 3-day license suspension. A second conviction can mean a fine up to $2,000, 6 demerit points, and a 7-day suspension. A third or further conviction can reach up to $3,000 with 6 demerit points and a 30-day suspension. Many people still do not realize the suspension can begin from what they think was just checking the phone for a second. Now imagine a common Highway 401 scenario. Traffic is slow, cars are creeping forward, you hear a message alert, you look down, pick up the phone, and tap once because you think, we're barely moving. Under Ontario's rules, that is not a safe loophole. Stopped traffic is still driving for the purpose of distracted driving enforcement. That single moment can turn a routine trip into a fine, points, suspension, reinstatement fees, and weeks of stress. The second major rule area involves emergency vehicles and tow trucks. On highways, when an emergency vehicle or tow truck is stopped with lights flashing, drivers must slow down and pass with caution. If there are 2 or more lanes, drivers must leave a lane of space between their vehicle and the stopped emergency vehicle if they can do so safely. Many people know the phrase "move over," but they do not realize officers can treat failure to do it as a serious offense, not a casual warning. Source. And the penalties are not small. For a first offense, drivers can face fines ranging from $400 to $2,000, 3 demerit points, and even a possible suspension of up to 2 years. Subsequent offenses within 5 years can bring higher fines, possible jail time, and the same license consequences. Most Canadians have never heard this explained clearly enough. Slowing down alone may not be enough if you could have changed lanes safely and did not. Now let's talk speed, because this is where many 401 drivers become overconfident. Ontario says stunt driving includes driving 50 kilometers per hour or more over the speed limit, and on roads with limits below 80, it can begin at 40 over. The province also says drivers caught at 150 kilometers per hour or more can face stunt driving charges anywhere in Ontario, including freeway sections posted at 110. That matters because on a fast-moving highway, a driver can convince themselves they are simply moving with the flow, right up until the moment the lights come on. And when stunt driving charges happen, the consequences are immediate and severe. Ontario lists an immediate 30-day roadside license suspension, a 14-day vehicle impoundment, fines from $2,000 to $10,000, 6 demerit points, post-conviction suspensions that can stretch from 1 year to 3 years for a first conviction, and even possible jail time. That is not the kind of mistake most drivers think they are making during an ordinary highway trip. But here's what many drivers don't realize. On a wide, open stretch, especially early in the morning, speed can climb much faster than people feel from behind the wheel. Even when speed does not reach the stunt driving threshold, regular speeding still adds up. Ontario says convictions can bring 3 demerit points for going 16 to 29 kilometers over the limit, 4 points for 30 to 49 over, and 6 points for 50 or more over. The fines also rise with the speed range. So the idea that a ticket is just a ticket can be misleading. It may be a ticket, points, insurance pressure, and a record that follows you long after the roadside stop is over. Another area many drivers underestimate is construction. The ministry's handbook reminds drivers that school zones and construction zones often have lower speed limits, and that you should drive below the maximum speed when conditions are bad, traffic is heavy, or construction is underway. On the 401, construction can appear where drivers have traveled the same route for years. A familiar stretch can suddenly have narrowed lanes, concrete barriers, reduced speed signs, workers close to traffic, and confusing merges. The mistake here is simple and very common. A driver sees everyone around them still moving quickly and assumes the temporary signs are more of a suggestion than a hard rule. But reduced speeds in work zones are there for a reason, and officers do not have to accept "I didn't realize the limit had changed" as a defense. This is where things get expensive, not only because of the ticket, but because many drivers later discover their insurer is far less forgiving than they expected. There is another rule many people still misunderstand during a roadside stop. If police ask for your driver's license, vehicle permit or copy, and proof of insurance, Ontario's handbook says you must surrender those documents immediately upon request. Contrary to a very common myth, you do not have 24 hours to present them later in that situation. So if you are driving tomorrow, make sure those basics are available and current before you leave your driveway. And yes, lane behavior matters too. Ontario's handbook tells drivers to keep right unless passing or preparing to turn left, to use signals before lane changes, and to leave at least a 2-second following distance in ideal conditions. The 401 often punishes impatience. Tailgating, sudden lane changes, or crowding another vehicle may begin as frustration, but if an officer sees conduct that looks aggressive or unsafe, it can lead to more than a lecture. In some cases, behavior that seems ordinary in heavy traffic can still be interpreted as careless or high-risk driving. Now let's focus on why older drivers and retirees should pay especially close attention. This is not about singling out seniors as unsafe. In fact, many older drivers are among the most cautious people on the road. The issue is that modern highway driving has changed. Traffic density is heavier. Technology inside the vehicle is more distracting. Navigation screens, smartphones, emergency lane rules, and ever-changing construction layouts can create a larger mental load than many people faced years ago. A cautious, experienced driver can still be surprised by a rule they simply were never taught in this form. Longer reaction times can also matter in ways people do not like to talk about. If a driver needs an extra second to recognize flashing lights on the shoulder, to process a temporary construction sign, or to decide whether a lane change is safe, that extra second on a fast highway is significant. Add rain, glare, nighttime driving, or aggressive traffic around you, and even a calm driver can feel rushed. That is why preparation matters more than pride. For drivers aged 80 and over, Ontario also has specific renewal processes that can become important if paperwork is close to expiring. The province says renewal notices arrive up to 90 days before license expiry, and drivers may need to bring their license, renewal application, glasses or contacts used for driving, hearing aids if needed, and identification if the license has already expired. If you or someone in your family is a senior driver, checking that status before tomorrow is part of smart planning, not overreacting. Source. At this point, let's use 3 realistic, clearly illustrative examples. These are not claims about specific real people. They are simple scenarios based on the kinds of mistakes Ontario drivers commonly make. The goal is to help you picture how fast a normal day can turn into a costly one. The first example is a retiree heading to visit family. He has driven the 401 for years and considers himself careful. Traffic slows near a work zone, and while waiting in the backup, he picks up his phone to check whether his daughter sent the correct exit number. An officer sees the phone in his hand. In his mind, he was not really driving. In legal terms, that argument may not help him. Suddenly, a family visit begins with a distracted driving charge, points, and a suspension that he never imagined from a few seconds in traffic. The second example is a driver who sees a tow truck stopped ahead with flashing lights. She eases off the gas and moves slightly left within her lane, believing she has been respectful and cautious. The problem is that the highway has more than one lane, traffic gives her room, and she still does not move over. She thought slowing down was enough, but under Ontario's rules, if it is safe to leave a full lane of space, that is what drivers are expected to do. Her mistake was not recklessness, it was misunderstanding. The third example is the one every viewer should remember. A man hears these rule reminders the night before a long drive. The next morning he sets his route before leaving home, places his phone securely on a mount, checks Ontario 511 for road conditions, makes sure his license and insurance are with him, and tells himself in advance that if traffic flows too fast, he will still obey the posted limit. Later, he sees flashing lights on the shoulder, changes lanes early and safely, and continues without incident. No ticket, no stress, no hidden cost. Sometimes the best legal strategy is simply knowing what the rule really says before the moment arrives. And speaking of hidden cost, this is the part many drivers ignore. The roadside fine is only the visible part of the problem. Insurance premium increases can hurt for years. Demerit points stay on the driving record for 2 years from the offense date. If enough points accumulate, the ministry can suspend a full license for 30 days. Some suspended drivers also face reinstatement fees. Others may need time off work, help from family, or expensive legal advice just to get back on track. Source. This is especially important for seniors on fixed incomes. A working-age driver may still find a higher premium painful. A retired driver may find it destabilizing. A few $100s in fines can become far more once insurance, towing, impound costs, missed appointments, and stress are added together. So when we say this matters before tomorrow, we are not trying to create fear. We are talking about practical consequences that can affect independence, budgets, and peace of mind. So what should drivers do before tomorrow morning? First, check your documents tonight. Make sure your license is valid, your vehicle permit or copy is accessible, and your proof of insurance is current. Second, charge your phone but plan not to touch it while driving. Mount it securely if you use navigation and set the route before leaving. Third, review your usual route for construction, closures, or heavy delays using official tools like Ontario 511. Fourth, clean the windshield, check lights, and make sure your glasses, hearing aids, or medications you rely on are ready. Fifth, give yourself more time than you think you need. Rushing creates bad decisions. Sixth, remind yourself that the speed of traffic is not automatically the legal speed. Seventh, if you see flashing lights on the shoulder, slow down early and move over safely if a lane is available. Eighth, keep more following distance than usual, especially if weather is poor or visibility is reduced. Ninth, if you feel tired, emotional, or stressed, delay the trip if possible. Calm decisions save money as well as lives. And now we come to the most important rule in this entire update. The final rule may surprise you because it catches drivers who do not think of themselves as rule breakers at all. It is not the dramatic high-speed case. It is not the obvious racing case. It is the phone in your hand. In Ontario, simply holding or using that handheld device while driving, while stopped in traffic, or while waiting at a red light can trigger a distracted driving charge. That is the rule I would put at the top of the list before tomorrow because so many otherwise careful people still believe there is a quick glance exception when there really is not. Source. If there is one more point to remember, it is this. Do not assume that because you have always driven a certain way on the 401, that way is still safe, accepted, or affordable. Highway habits are powerful. They feel normal, but normal is not always legal, and familiar is not always up to date. Most Canadians have never heard this explained in one place. The costliest mistakes are often the quiet, ordinary ones that happen during routine trips. So let's recap clearly. I could not verify a single brand new province-wide Highway 401 only law definitely beginning tomorrow, and viewers should always confirm current rules with official provincial transportation authorities. But drivers can absolutely face instant fines and serious consequences under existing Ontario rules that are widely misunderstood. Holding a phone can trigger distracted driving penalties. Failing to slow down and move over for stopped emergency vehicles or tow trucks can lead to major fines and points. Speed that creeps too high can become stunt driving faster than many expect. Construction zone limits and temporary signs still count. Missing or expired documents can create their own trouble. That is the urgent message tonight. The real danger is not only a new law, it is old assumptions. It is routine habits. It is the belief that experience alone protects you from modern enforcement. For many drivers, especially seniors who value safety and independence, the smartest move before tomorrow is a quiet review tonight. Have you ever received a highway fine? What happened? And was it something you expected or something that caught you completely off guard? Share your experience in the comments because your story may help another Canadian driver avoid the same mistake. And if you want more Canadian news, senior updates, and public safety information explained in simple English, make sure you subscribe and stay with us for the next update.